This is Entrepreneurs Get Visible, the podcast for people who want more impact, influence, and income. I'm Anna Parker-Naples, and I'll be sharing with you proven methods from leading entrepreneurs that help you get visible as an authority in your field. Because anything's possible when you get visible. I'm talking in this episode today about options you have for publishing your book. And I wanted to talk through the 3 routes that I think that are really available to want to be authors and those potentially publishing their first or maybe even their second book. Maybe you've already done one book and that route doesn't feel like it's necessarily working for you. So I am recording this as a joint Facebook Live and podcast episode. So it's going out to live across lots of places right now because I wanted to get this message out there whilst I am still riding this wave of getting my first book published. As you may already know, if you've been following me on social media, my book Get Visible, How to Have More Impact, Influence and Income was released on the 20th of November and has reached number 1 in 11 categories across Amazon for bestseller in entrepreneurship, business, small business, self-help and careers and entrepreneurship, and the lists go on and on and on. So I wanted, while it's all fresh in my mind, to talk you through the processes behind what I chose to do and why I made those decisions, and also what you maybe need to consider if you are looking at publishing your own book. So first of all, there are 3 routes. They essentially are self-publishing, traditional publishing, or hybrid publishing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those and let you know what you really need to be thinking about. So the things then you need to be considering in terms of self-publishing, the pros of self-publishing are that it gives you ultimate control. You can control everything. You can control the timing. You can control the content of the book, actually what goes into the book, what you write, the shape of the story. You have flexibility over absolutely everything. So you have that complete creative and artistic control. You also have much more control then over the monetization of the book. You can set the pricing of the book when it goes live. You can make sure that you are getting more revenue from it because nobody else is taking a cut except potentially Amazon. So you are then able, potentially, if your book does well, you are able to take a much bigger cut. And I'll talk a little bit in more detail about Amazon's structure for what you can choose between and what that looks like for both paperback and Kindle. We'll see if we get to that in this episode. So there are some really strong pros for it. Now, I hadn't really considered self-publishing because I wanted that acronym. I wanted that kudos that I had gone with a publisher. It's almost that need and that want for recognition. But when I realized that that was driving a lot of my decision making, actually, I decided that I wanted my book out as quickly as possible and that I didn't want to delay the process, which I'll come to in a moment. So the cons of self-publishing is that you don't have an experienced team driving you. You are on your own, or you are working with editors or formatters that have done it before, but essentially you are driving the beast. So for me, I knew that I wanted to learn this, go through it the hard way, because I know lots of entrepreneurs don't necessarily want to self-publish. They don't necessarily want to pay a hybrid publisher. And I felt very strongly that if I did this first, I could teach this. And I'm quite open with sharing my highs, my failings, the things that have worked well. So the cons are that it might not look like a proper book, but because you might not get the formatting right, you might not get the labeling right, it might not quite have the same feel as a book that's done by perhaps Penguin. But that's okay, because very often people might start self-publishing and then go to a publisher afterwards. And for me, I've given myself permission to be imperfect because there will be subsequent editions of the book. And I already know that there's going to be a second edition of my book, for example, even though I'm only a week into launching. The book will feel very same, it'll have the same kind of content, but there will be some tweaks based on the feedback that I'm getting from people. But I can decide, because I'm self-publishing, I have control over that happening. So I know what I want to happening and I have that artistic and creative control. The limitation with self-publishing is that you don't have, 1, an experienced team, and 2, you don't have the connections that a traditional publisher does have. So you are on a boat on your own in the wild ocean, and that could be really limiting. So in terms of the self-publishing then, one of the pros is that obviously Amazon is the biggest bookseller in the world. And if you self-publish through them, particularly using their KDP system, which I'm going to come on to more in another episode on specifically on self-publishing, which should be coming out next Thursday, hopefully. If not, it'll be the week after. So I'm going to look a little bit more about that entire process behind the scenes for getting it live on Amazon. But essentially you can then put it, if you wish to, into various promotions. So Amazon will push your book out for you. you, which is quite exciting. Now, in terms of traditional publishing, the pros are that you have that badge of honour, you have that team behind you, you have the whole process beyond writing the book is taken away from you. And you can have that recognition. You can feel like, oh, somebody thought my work was going to be good enough and they chose me. And I know for a lot of people that's really important. And I'm not going to deny that that is quite appealing. And I'll be honest, I would love a publisher to come to me and say, we want your work from now on, and to get a 3-book deal. That would be amazing. But it's also been very interesting doing the self-publishing. The cons then, as I saw it for the traditional publishing, was the lack of control, even in terms of writing the book, in terms of the structure of the book, the content of the book. And funnily enough, I was having a discussion with an interviewee for Entrepreneurs Get Visible just last week about how a book that was due to go out over Christmas time for him, he was in headlock with his publisher because they wanted him to write a book that he didn't want to write. They wanted the title and the topic of the book to be delivered in a particular way that did not feel congruent with him and the way he teaches. Because although his was a business book and was for business people, he wanted it to be driven through storytelling, which is something I can really identify with. But they wanted it driven through essentially bullet points and fact and how-tos. And he felt that it was much better to have a hybrid or to go towards the storytelling route. So you do have less control right from the word go. Also, if you go down a traditional publishing route, your timing is going to be delayed. So if you really want to get your book out there, if you go with a traditional publisher, there's every chance, even if they took you on right now, that you might not get your book out there for another 2 years. Is that what you really want? For me, I knew I had to do this soon because I wanted that stamp of best-selling author. I couldn't wait any longer. And just to qualify there, you can't know you're going to be a best-selling author. All you can make sure is that you write a damn good book or your best that you can, and you build your audience. That's another topic for another time. So the cons then, that you can potentially have that lack of creative control, but the pro is that you could actually be paid to write your book. So you can get an advance. And that actually, if you potentially taking some time out of your business to write your book, means that actually you can afford to take that time out of your business. So there are real bonuses to doing it. Now, the third option is hybrid publishing, which is something I looked into in quite a lot of detail. So effectively, they help guide you through the self-publishing process. You pay them to take away all of the headaches, like how to format your book, how to edit the book. But sometimes even their service includes helping you write the book, like what should be in each chapter, potentially the planning of the book. And then they are the ones who are responsible for getting it up onto Amazon and into all of the other bookstores for you. But you pay a considerable amount of money for that service. And I looked into this. I looked into it, but because I felt very strongly that I either wanted that badge of honour, that a publisher had chosen me, or I wanted creative control over everything and not to have to pay someone a sizable amount of money in order to do that. That hybrid thing just didn't quite fit with me. I know people who've had tremendous success with it, and actually in future episodes I will be bringing in a publisher who follows the hybrid model. The best thing about the hybrid publishing model is that you're not waiting for someone to say yes to your book like you would with traditional publishing. You pay them the money and they're going to help you get the book out there. So there's not that kind of pre-approval of your work, if you like. You're not waiting for someone else's say-so. You are paying for a service. And the good thing about hybrid publishing is generally, I believe, most hybrid publishers, they don't take a cut of the book. So a traditional publisher takes all of the cut, but you get the advance, and then after that you've matched the advance with your income, you then get a cut of the book after that. But with self-publishing you get quite a big cut, and with hybrid publishing, depending on the hybrid publisher you go with, you would also then get that 35 or 70% cut depending on the deal they struck. So they were the options that are available. They were the options I considered. I knew that I really wanted to self-publish at this point because I wanted the book out of the gate on my time with my deadlines. Now, the cons of this have been that I was working with a team that whilst they had ghost written and edited many books for ebooks, they had actually not done a paperback before. And I worked with them because I knew them. They're very experienced. They really wanted to learn as well. And we were happy to go on that journey of working it all out. But doing that to deadline was challenging. That was really challenging. And then at the last minute, my book got launched inadvertently. It got launched a few days early because I was inexperienced at looking at the KDP system, which is the Amazon self-publishing end. But it's not done me any harm because my book got to number 1 in 11 categories across Amazon. So it's been a huge learning curve. If you have a book in you, I strongly recommend you get out there and make it happen. This has been one of the best things I've ever done. I can't tell you what it means to me that I'm now getting reviews for Get Visible. People, it was the first few days I was getting reviews from people that know me. I've started to get reviews and feedback from people who've never come across me before, and that's really, really exciting. So just to let you know, the book is called Get Visible: How to Have More Impact, Influence and Income. And if you love the content in this podcast, which I very much hope you do, I do hope you love Entrepreneurs Get Visible, and I'd love to hear from you if you do love this podcast. Just go and buy the book. It really goes into so much more detail about all of the strategies, techniques and mindset tools that I share with you in this podcast. It's like this podcast on fire. So if you'd like to go and get that, the link will be in the show notes, and I'd be very grateful for you leaving a review and letting me know what you think. So the final thing I want to say about the whole publishing journey is you need to consider how you feel about getting it out there. Now, my book's about getting visible. It's about putting yourself out there. That's what my topic is. It actually has been a very strange journey to know that my books are out there. So no book is perfect. No book is completely how you want it to be. It can't be. And knowing that you are being brave in sharing some of your story, in some of the angles, some of the raw honesty that comes from a good book, that's a brave step to take. So think about that. Think about how ready you are to share parts of your journey and what's your impetus for doing it. And I think that has to drive most of your decision making. Why am I writing this book? Why is it important for me? And why is it important for my business? What is the purpose of it for the readers? And that for me kept me going. And that is the reason that I've managed to kind of smash the launch, because it's not about me. It's about what the content of that book can do to transform people's lives and businesses. Thank you for listening to Entrepreneurs Get Visible. To get your free checklist on how to raise your profile and to find out about our community, go to annaparkernaples.co.uk/get visible.